Hi, hello. Um, Whenever you guys are watching this, thank you so much. As of recent events that have transpired on September 10th, 2025, concerning uh, pod, the conservative personality and founder of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, I am very deeply offended that his death is so visual on, for lack of a better word, on the internet, across the internet. I was not pleased to see that. I was very much not pleased to see that. Charlie Kirk has been a man that was this is has been a man that was very inspirational to many people, especially when he would go on college campuses and speak to people and speak to things that are truth to power. People don't like me saying that. People want to be completely one-sided when saying truth to power only goes one direction and leaving out conversations or pointing, you know, injustice from whole social groups to other parts of society. In the past, mistreatment of black people from, the majority white ethnic uh, population of the United States and I guess the Western world was, a good thing to fight against. However, when you have the desegregation and the integration of the two ethnic groups and racism in terms of openly express as it once was, where people can openly discriminate as they once had done, ending ending so much so that in predominant culture people would say, even back in the 90s, you watch those videos where people would be interviewing black people and white people. What do you think of white people? Black kids would say they're fine, they're good. And then to ask white people back then, what do you think about black people? They're fine, they're good. Early 2000s, that's fine. And then everything just changed in 2007. It's like everything just changed. And all of a sudden race relations became bad. It's like how? They were on a good trajectory. And people who happen to be on the right or libertarian do point out that it was Barack Obama who kept highlighting racial who kept highlighting not racial issues but kept creating racial issues out of the death of uh, you know young black uh, adolescents, such as like Ferguson, as well as when George Zimmerman, um, part of a neighborhood watch, out of defense for himself, killed a young black man. And um, I'm not here to argue about those things. There are certain things I do agree with popular culture and disagree with popular culture on. It's just that those types of things, in the past would have been highlighted, but not, you know, put as white versus black, especially with George Zimmerman, who's a Latino man. I grew up in Latino culture. I am ethnically Native American, but I am, um, they're from Mexico, northern Mexico, and southern United States. When crossing the border into the United States, they didn't call themselves Indians. They called themselves, Mexican, because they didn't want to get sent to where the reservations were at the time. What else could that have been? All I, you know, all I can say is that, so my family has lived in this country for about 5 generations, calling ourselves, 4 generations really, calling ourselves Mexican, even though we're, Indianos. you know. And all I can say is that, when you say a light-skinned Latino man who has a dark-skinned Latino mother, that he's white, or that he has some Latino, you know, heritage. It's like, no, that's a Latino man. You put, like, I'm sorry, that is not an opinion, that is a fact. He's a Latino man. And the media tried to put it as white versus black, where it didn't need to be that way. And then you see in 2020 these Black Lives Matter activists smashing in windows of Latino stores. It's like, what is going on? You're making enemies out of Latinos. Now, the predominant tribe the nation, Apache. Oh, we know what that's like when you anger the Latinos. We fought the Mexicans, and when you actually know the whole context of the history, there's a lot more there than just white man, brown man did something bad to the red man. There's a lot more there than just that. You might even say, when you study everything in all its context, you'll hear good things here, bad things there about everybody. And, oh, so that's why they did those actions, or that's why that happened, or that's why that policy from Washington, or from local governments, or from Mexico City and local governments, or this band and this whole tribe did those certain policy changes, or did these certain actions with one another. You'll see why. But it doesn't need to be a racial issue. Those are just, a people issue. It doesn't need to be racialized. And, because you had all those videos and all those interviews in the 90s, you had race relations were so good. You had black people on white people's jerseys. You had black people on, being celebrated by white people. And now they're being told that they're victims rather than picking yourself up. And look, these stars, these big people have done it, and so can you, which was the message of the late 90s, the 90s, late 80s to the 90s to the early 2000s. Then 2007 happened and everything changed. The great activist Russell Means of the Lakota Nation, the Sioux Nation, Lakota people, he pointed out that in 2007 everything changed. All these anti-war demonstrations just disappeared. And that Obama, once he got elected, wars continued and he didn't change a damn thing. His words. I agree. Ever since 2007 happened, now again, he was running 2007, became president 2008. Everything just changed. Right-wing activists, right-wing people, and libertarians do point out that, yes, Obama changed everything, made things racialized. I do agree. He didn't need to point that out. And then, again, you could point things out. Forgive me. Because, yeah, you could point out racial inequality, racial injustice. Absolutely. And George Zimmerman versus Michael Brown. Yeah. Like, you could make that a racial issue, I guess, but that would be Latino versus black people. And then, that is something that's you don't necessarily want to do, but I guess you could do. Because, just honestly, just think about it. Many Latinos immigrate or have been here for generations. And you can look at the poverty line and be like, they're not doing it as bad as many African Americans. So you could point that out and just be like, hey, this man came from a wealthy neighborhood. And there are opinions that I have about what he did that is wrong, George Zimmerman, as well as, yes, Michael Brown. He did too. The only thing I would say is that if anyone wants to ask, more so is on the adult. The young boy is frightened while going to this neighborhood he's not familiar with. Yeah, he shouldn't have tried to take the man's gun in the fighting. And he shouldn't have responded the way that the the into George Zimmerman that he had done. Mike shouldn't have responded that way. And George, he didn't need to go out, following the young man, and then try to, confronting him. I guess, following him's creepy, but confronting him in sense of being like, excuse me, young man, why are you here? This is kind of a private neighborhood. I am part of the neighborhood watch, just letting you know. I would have just done that. We're just looking for this stuff. You're just not a face we've seen here before. No issue with you because you're black or anything else, or you're a tall, imposing young man, because he was a tall, imposing young man. But it's just that I have not seen you. And so I have not seen you before. Neither has anyone seen you before. We're just a little suspicious, cautious. Um, you know, I will, like, if he feels a need to follow him, okay, I'll follow you up to this block, but I'll keep an eye on you from the other block onwards. I just gotta trust, just, we're just a bit cautious here, is what I would say if I were him. Go beyond your way, young man. Not go beyond, but more like, now, if you don't mind, young man, I will, do as I said, and I'll let you be on your way. Have a good day, good evening, young man. And if he would ignore me and give me, attitude, I would be like, all right, well, just letting you know, just letting you know, young man. That's what I would do. I don't know if I would have to get out of the car. Think about it. Did he have to get out of the car? No. Did he have to approach him like that? No. That's my issue right there. And then the young man, he sees this wide man. It's dark, and he talks very fluently.
Hello?
Okay, so I don't know if the microphone is actually working for my headphones right now. Hello? So, let's see. So anyways, all I can say is that I have an issue with George's actions that resulted in the young man being killed. I don't know if this audio... Let's see. Hold on. Alright, whatever. I think it does work, but my mic shut off. It said power off. It's like, what? I'm in the middle of recording. I have an issue with George Zimmerman. And I think I'm getting the two young men mixed up. Someone brown and please forgive me. So I'm getting them completely mixed up. I know George Zimmerman because people have been bringing it up recently and lying about his ethnicity, saying he's white. He's not. He's a Latino. He's Cuban. But I'm just like, whatever. Just coming from somebody who grew up with the Chicano culture his whole life, having to learn the Indiano way of life. All I can say is that... yeah, okay, so my mic does work. Is that I am understanding of a lot of things. People want to have things their way. They don't want to disagree with people. When they find disagreement, you're the enemy. You are the bad person. No one else, just you. Oh, wow. And that's the type of world that we live in. You can't disagree with somebody. A lot of young people don't even know about um let's see, this Michael Brown, was it? And why am I blanking on his name? The young man in Ferguson. But people don't really know about these people. They know about George Floyd. And George Floyd did die, as you see the autopsy and you actually watch the trial. He of Derek Chauvin. That, yeah, the man was just following the training he was provided by the state of Minnesota, and he died by asphyxiation, not by pressure on the neck, but by an overdose. There's a lot of things like that. The world doesn't want to, hear opposite opinions. They want to hear whatever they were told and what social media confirms to them, what any form of media confirms them, whether that be old media like news networks or Reddit or anything else. It's like that's just not the case. You have to go look at everything. Give your opinion on it, but is that the truth? I have to go research more about this. It's like, what happened? You hear about it. Okay, I'll go look that up. And so you go find out more information. People didn't want to do that. People don't want to do that. They want to make things racialized today. They don't want to, and when you disagree with them, they say you're punching down. Before streaming about Charlie Kirk, not streaming, recording about Charlie Kirk, it's been about 20 minutes. It's 17 minutes at the moment, but Charlie Kirk was a man talking about issues of all of these kinds of issues. Talked about George Floyd, George Zimmerman, talked about Ferguson. And that's why those topics are relevant. He talked about race relations and many of the lies that are perpetuated today. And the two videos I had seen before talking about media, like Family Guy and My Hero Academia, I just had to stop when the woman about making the My Hero Academia video, she said that she loves My Hero Academia, but it's sexist. I'm like, wow, you don't love it. To make vast, massive accusations of a show like that, it's like, I'm sorry. It's a show that was geared towards young men. Of course, most of the cast are male. And of course, the women are going to be a little bit objectified or maybe even sexy. Or maybe even, yes, looked at as to plow, because that's what a boy does. That's what boys do. And if you want to look at mere science and look at Darwinian evolution, take a good look at what that is. Darwinian evolution tells us survival of the fittest, those who can procreate. In other words, sex dominates everything. It's not, oh, I'm the toughest and strongest. No, no, no. Did I reproduce? Did I do this? Did I do that? And yeah, he did. So, okay, his genes carried on. Therefore, he's going to be more likely to procreate. For his genetics to carry on. Anything that goes against that dies off eventually. And you have all of these scientists making complete U-turns on what they've been telling people for decades. And you have somebody like Charlie Kirk speaking about those types of things, being like, no, 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 that's not how it works. He's not talking about Darwinian evolution because he doesn't believe that. He believes in the Bible. I do too. I like science, but I do not agree with things that go out of its way to contradict the Bible. And people say that's backwards. Let me ask you this. Science tells us there's only two genders. What is your opinion on that? They'll say that's sexist. Like, no, you're wrong. That's just science. And then also, here's the thing. I used to be homosexual. I used to be. I knew for a fact about Darwinian evolution. Survival of the fittest is those who can procreate. Anything that doesn't procreate, your genes don't get passed on. So how is it that you're born gay if your genetics never got passed, your gay genes never got passed on? And all these scientists who've been talking about genetics being passed on through procreation and anything that doesn't allow that dies off, those genetics don't get passed on, find themselves backed into a corner because of social issues rather than doing things merely for science. And they say, well, science says no, science tells us exactly that. Are you telling us that we're all born with a gay gene? Some people just have more of it? How did that, through millions of years, stick around and not just get died out? Not just die out. So much so that there are no gay people ever. How is that? Unless, of course, it is a choice. How is that? I don't know. I'll tell you this. It is, and it has always been. And as a Christian now, someone who knows his Bible in the sense of what it says, I cannot quote the verse, cannot quote the I can cannot quote specific chapters in terms of verbatim, but I know what they're saying. I've read that New Testament many times. We're all born sinful. All of us, because of the choice Adam did of eating the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. Obeying his wife rather than saying, no, I will not eat of this fruit. Rather than standing up to the one who is in sin, he decided to obey the one in sin. And nobody ever asked the question, why? People will always quote the verse that Satan says, that's when Satan is the snake is talking to Eve, saying, God knows that you'll be like him, be able to see knowledge of good and you'll be able to know good and evil, and that if you eat of this, you will be as gods. Eve heard that. And then she said, well, it does look good. No, she doesn't say. She looks at it and sees that it's good for eating and eats of it. She didn't say anything. She probably felt betrayed by God rather than trusting in God and knowing he is God. Adam, why did he do it? Eve didn't tell him anything from what we know. So what is the thing? He probably felt like this is, as he said earlier in that same chapter, or in the previous chapter, he said, this is flesh of my flesh and bone of my bone. She'll be called woman. And so he probably, looking around, as earlier in that same chapter said, he looks and he sees there's no flesh for him, no helper meat for him. So here's his only helper meat, bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, in sin, doing something that God told him not to do, and yet, what do you think he's going to do? You don't want to be alone. This is bone of his bone, flesh of his flesh, his helper meat. She's eating of it, I'm eating it too, I don't want to be alone. He loved her. And so, the reason why homosexuality exists is because of what Adam chose to do, give in to that. Adam had authority over his wife. But actually that's really told to us after they were kicked out of the Garden of Eden. More so they were on equal footing with each other. And maybe, she may have been above him because it says he will cling to her. But at the same time, it is the Old Testament. And I'm not saying that to just write off the Old Testament. I mean that it's strictly Hebrew. And in that type of Hebrew, it is cling in terms of, you know, sexual type of clinging. Like, oh, sex. He will cling to his wife. Give himself over to his wife in that sense. It could be said as, like, not saying this as interpreting it in terms of English, how we could interpret many different ways, but it could be, even though it, because, cling in terms of sex, that's how it means. Oh, I get it. But there are poetic ways where, in Hebrew, where you can use the sexual clinging in terms of giving yourself over in terms of authority, instead of giving yourself over in terms of just sex. But I bring that up to talk about homosexuality as ultimately a choice to stay in sin or to abandon that sin. We're all born with this gay gene, scientists say, even though it contradicts evolution. But yeah, no, you're wrong for making that distinction of not making that compromise for social issues of the day, rather than saying strictly on science. Those scientists of the early 2000s hated Christianity so much because Christianity was opposed to homosexuality, so much so they're like, we're going to compromise because it's against Christianity, right? And everybody else wants us to be for it. Ever since the trans movement, you have scientists split. They want to be silent. I don't want to talk about it. Or they completely side with it. Like Bill Nye now saying that, oh, see, no, there are XX chromosomes, there are XY chromosomes, but there's also different variations, thus meaning that there's more than one sex. What are those sexes? What? It's like he's wrong. He's such a sellout. And you have Bill Nye. Sorry, not Bill Nye. Well, that's it. Okay. Get the thing turned off again. I have no idea why. I think it's because there's no sound from my computer. It's just me talking. But 30-minute video, I think is fine. I've gone over, about to anyways, 2 minutes left. But Charlie Kirk, Dave Chappelle, and plenty of others have talked about this trans issue. And you see it, that is just psychotic. There's nothing wrong with somebody who does want to make that transition, who's an adult. You choose to do what you want to do with that. It's your life. But you cannot force me to call you something that I'm sorry, I will not do that if you clearly look like a man. I will not be forced to do that when you demand of me that. I do not hate you. I do not hate you at all. I wish to speak to people who are homosexual. Because I used to be one. When I was young, I would never see myself as a boy. Always think of a girl. And I would always be confused. Why are these people being mean to this girl? Oh, I'm a boy. Right. When I grow up to be a woman, no. You'll be growing up to be a man. Right. A lot of people who are in the trans community talk about that is how they knew they were always in the wrong body. It's like, well, I had that same experience. I had that exact same thing my whole life. And I do not really, you know, I do not see how I myself am going to, impose my way onto women. I could say that I identify as a woman, I should have all the same protections as women, but yet I am physically stronger. My brain operates differently. The halves of my brain, the hemispheres of my brain operate differently, as we have seen many times in science, and even before people were to, you know, even before people were finding out those hemispheres and discovering those types of things, people had theories over hundreds of years. Were proven wrong, obviously, but there was just normal observation that men tend to make certain decisions, women tend to make other decisions, and those created the normal gender roles in all societies. Women do most of these types of things. They can do what guys do, but they'd rather choose not to. And men who allow women to do that openly as much as they do, it's like you're going to have your women die. So that's why societies would try to impose restrictions on women, because we don't want you to die. Because without you, there's no society. Because women bear life. They bring life into this world. Without a woman, there's no society. Just a bunch of men. And men know that. From ancient Mesopotamia all the way down, ancient Egypt all the way down to today. You don't protect women, you don't have a society. All this overbearing sexist culture that people talk about, that even Charlie Kirk was talking about. Yeah, these gender roles come about through thousands of years because of the protection of women. And you have other societies that people don't want to talk about, like East Asian societies, where they kind of don't care about women. Like you see this in plenty of people who are in Asia talking to Westerners, people who are not from Asia, East Asia that is. Those cultures are very different. So much so that the woman would sacrifice herself for the man. It's like, whoa, what? No, the man in Western society would give his life for the woman. Now, that whole concept comes from not really Roman society as much. Romans would fight over women all the time and would legalize everything in terms of not, they would make things a legal issue. So it's not necessarily fighting to protect women, it's just, is it legal to protect women? Yes, it was. And can a woman legally, do stuff when going against a man? She can sue a man, yes. She can in Roman society. It's all about legality. In China, not necessarily true. Concubines are the meat shields for the emperor. Ah, kill all the men. Who cares about the women? The Mongols would say. But breed the women, yes. You know, make babies with the women. Japan, it was, if a man is going to be assassinated, a woman walks behind the man. So that way, if there's an assassin, the woman jumps in to save the man. Because his lineage needs to be carried on, so he can procreate with a different woman. Viking and Native American societies and many African societies, not all. Ethiopia was not the same way. Ethiopia was very much, will protect women. Oh yeah, Ethiopia was very much like the Mesopotamian kingdoms. You know, they will protect their women. When it comes to, matriarchal societies, Women are just as much as fair game as men are. That's why you see matriarchal societies like the Vikings go and do raping and pillaging. Yes, Native American societies are matriarchal, so that's why you would see in raids, they kill the men, take the women. Okay. Charlie Kirk would talk about these types of things. Perhaps not in depth. He'd also dig himself holes, talking about gun violence. Some gun violence is necessary so that we can protect our Second Amendment rights for ourselves to defend ourselves. How I would say is that, that's all those shootings are really a failure of our culture. That's what I would say. Reason being is because Switzerland has so many guns in their country, and yet can you name a shooting in their country? They're not a part of the EU. They're not a part of NATO. They have tight border restrictions, tight cultural restrictions. They have gun ownership like out the wazoo. And yet, can you name a single shooting in that country? No. They have respectful gun culture there. Respectable culture between one another. And yet, look at this. America's not like that. Look at that. We honestly are fighting with each other all the time. And we live in such peace that we think that we can live without weaponry. At the end of the day, no. We're human beings. People in the Old West and, even to the 40s, the 50s, people walked around with guns. Kids would go to school with guns. That would happen all the time. There were no shootings then. What happened? What happened? Simple. Culture changed. Too cocky, thinking that we're above nature. We don't have the need to walk around with weaponry, even though for thousands of years humanity has walked around with weapons. And in a country like Switzerland, we walked around with guns all along, having ourselves a gun respect culture and understanding that if you take a gun out, there will be more than likely someone there with a gun as well. Didn't mean it always happened, because people have always been feeling safe fairly much in America. You had Bonnie and Clyde, for crying out loud. You had the gangsters of New York and Chicago. How were they able to be gangsters? People felt too comfortable in cities. They didn't need to walk around with a gun. And it didn't make sense anyways, technically. Because when a city got too big, it doesn't make sense to have a gun. And that's true, it doesn't. That is true. Because fire the gun, goes through a window and hits somebody else, things like that, you'll unintentionally kill people. That's true. I'm not saying that's not wrong. Absolutely. Weaponry, people had them. And then they started making restrictions on what kinds of weapons. It's because of cities. And I'm not those types of people who say cities are just inherently evil. They're a necessary thing that people need. All of human society has focused on centralization. Native American society and African societies, matriarchal societies, patriarchal societies, like China, like Europe, very patriarchal societies. Japan, Korea, man talk first, then the woman. Yeah. So Charlie's a bit wrong on that. However, how I would have worded it is that it's a failure of culture. Our culture has failed us with all these shootings. We cannot defeat nature. We are just a part of nature, just as much as nature is a part of our lives. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily make the biggest amount of sense having a gun in a city, but you have to understand that criminals don't care. And if everybody else understood that, walked around with their own weaponry, yeah, you could outright be like, wow, I need to defend myself. The founding, documents of this country, the Constitution, Bill of Rights, these descend from the Iroquois Confederation. Now, the Bill of Rights, not necessarily all of it. Constitution, yes. A lot of it, if not most of it. A lot of our laws descend from indigenous law. Russell Means was telling us the truth that this is Indian land, Indian law. And yeah, Indian land, but Indian law. And that's why he loves this country. He loved this country. He's passed from this world. But he loved this place. America. He said that when he went to college, when he was growing up, he went, not college, but when he was growing up, he went to school in the greatest country on earth. That's his own words. And he's not wrong. Not wrong at all. This country has changed. Kill people we don't agree with anymore. We kill people we don't agree with. Willing to do harm to one another, and it's just no good for you or me or anyone. Why? The failure of our culture is the reason why mass shootings happen. You want to end mass shooting, you have to change the culture. Teach people it's okay to walk around with a gun. Gun safety, yes. A good person, like in Uvalde, there was a bad person, bad people who were harming little kids in that school, and it was good people who took guns, did things that the police refused to do themselves, that it was their job to do. Ah, my ears. I'm sorry, the mic turned off again. It has about like a 20-minute lifespan without audio being played in the desktop. So, but anyways, before this hour's up, that's weaponry to defend yourself is something that many, if not all, First Nations in this continent, that is, First Nations understood. We had always had a culture of weaponry with us all the time. The Lakota, the Sioux people, they had war dances. That war dance requires weapons. It's a culture where you have weapons around you all the time. And the U.S. Army tried to take our guns away, take their weapons away from them. I'm Apache, not Lakota. Or not Sioux. Dene people is what I am. They are Sioux. Anyways, yes, I do have some Iroquois people in me. Cherokee. They're an Iroquois people, not a part of the Iroquois Confederacy, but the U.S. government didn't like this war dance. Felt offended by it. So they sent in the U.S. Army. Forgot which division. They went in to go disarm them. Gun control. Gun control. And you'll never guess what happened. Opened fire on women, children, and the elderly. Yeah, the men too. Young men too. Opened fire on everybody. I'm sorry. That is not okay. I will say that is a genocidal act. Just outright no. Mm-mm. And so, when you have these politicians advocating the same thing and these people who I feel for, you lost your child, you lost your family, but I'm sorry, but it's our culture that failed you, not the policies of, you know, everybody has the right to own a gun. We have lived thousands of years in this continent before this nation of the United States showed up. And we did just fine. We didn't have some Mac wackos trying to kill any of us. So you didn't have guns. We did once we had trade with nations who traded with the Spanish. Yeah, we didn't go shooting each other, except in war. You know? So what is the problem? I don't think guns are the problem. People do kill people. Now, granted, you can make an argument that, well, that person wouldn't have been able to kill the person with the gun if it wasn't for the gun. Correct. He would have still found something else to kill them with. The United Kingdom, they have knife attacks. And it's just so much so they have knife control. Okay, so it's not the weaponry. It's the people. And you have wealthy people living in cities with people who are in unurban cities, unurban locations who need guns. And you have within cities people who are desperate. So they turn to violence. And good law abiding people are not gonna have a gun with them because they feel safe in a city. But those who don't feel safe in a city, they will resort to violence and they will get the weaponry they need for violence. So as long as you have that, it's best to have a culture where everybody accepts walking around with a weapon. We did it for thousands of years. Why can't you be the same? Well, here's a good argument no one ever applies. They always love to apply that, the noble savage was just so good, rather than that they would never have done that. Or there were no guns back then. We had guns for a long time. Ever since the Spanish started trading with other nations here, we had guns. Far longer than this nation's been around. We didn't shoot anybody. And they want to make semantic arguments about rapid fire. It doesn't matter. We have bow and arrows and knives and spears and all those things. But here's something. No one ever wants to criticize the Indian, the Native American. And if they were to, the only people I've ever heard criticism of Native American culture would be people of Middle Eastern culture. I'm no joke. Or South Asian culture, like Pakistan. They openly say, well, I think your culture is dirt. Or I think you guys are just savages. You guys are just undeveloped. You don't know what it's like to be in a developed culture. They don't call us savages. They say undeveloped. Primitive. You might as well just come out and said we're savages. But it's sad that people don't want to acknowledge that part of our culture. That's the thing that failed us. Guns are a great equalizer. You know. Um so, for Charlie Kirk to say it's unfortunate, but it's necessary for those um, to have some violence, so in order to keep our right to defend ourselves, I think that's just a wrong way to phrase it. And people use that to criticize him in his death. I would say before my death that it is a failure of our culture. We should embrace a gun culture society because for thousands of years on this continent we have existed with weapons. Not guns, but weapons. For hundreds of years before this nation, the United States of America, was founded, we, the indigenous people, had guns through trading with the Spanish, later the French, then the British. But we had guns for a long time and we never had any of these issues. Switzerland has guns and yet they don't have this issue. Why? It's a culture. They have a gun culture. They have a weaponry culture. Indigenous cultures used to have a weapon culture. Not today. Not like they used to. And all I can say is that when you have that, you understand what it means to walk around with something like that. And what the risks are when you are going to be a criminal amongst that type of society. Your life could end immediately, and your impact could end in a snap. So no, it's not, ideal for criminals to exist as openly as they do in our current society if everybody had guns. Those people who died in what I can't remember the shooting that Alex Jones was insulting the families of. Well, those people didn't really die and all that stuff. It's all made up. It's like, what? Now you have those families making commercials about gun control. It's like, I'm sorry your family died, but I don't want another Wounded Knee. I don't. Wounded Knee happened because of gun control. I don't want that happening again. It is a shame Charlie died. That person who shot him couldn't make an argument against Charlie, so he decided to use his Second Amendment to take his life. Okay. That man chose to kill another man. Second Amendment needs to be around because the Iroquois had a Second Amendment. The Indiano is not a stupid savage. We know what it's like to have our weapons taken from us. We make ourselves defenseless when we're disarmed. I don't want that for America. Russell Means is correct. You, the American citizen, we, the American citizens, are the new Indians. Congratulations. This whole United States is one giant Indian reservation. And Charlie Kirk is proof of that. His death is proof of that. Because his life was taken from him because people did not feel that they could defeat him in an argument. And yet he said some things that are like, that's really stupid, dude. But yet, even I, somebody who disagrees with him on plenty of things, but he was a man that inspired so many people and gave me hope for a lot of different arguments to be said in public. He had such good debates with people. South Park had such fun with him. I loved that. Kirk, South Park. Let me get that up for you guys. This would be fun. Before I go, this would be excellent to show.
Okay, everybody, the South Park episode just dropped, and honestly, it is hilarious. I mean, part of it...
Oh, man, I'm gonna miss this guy. I hope the @real Charlie Kirk does not strike my video down. Please do not, Mr. people who are running his channel now.
It is kind of like whatever, typical humor. But it was hilarious. Just watch this little snippet of our Prove Me Wrongs, our viral cultural domination on prime time on Comedy Central. So important, so impactful that South Park is highlighting. Watch it.
It is so fun. I'm sorry. That is so good. That, oh my goodness. I love how Charlie Kirk loved this, and I love how South Park loved him. They loved him. They loved him so much, dude. They loved him. Look at that. He was so good. Look, Cartman. Look at Cartman. Look at that guy. Look. Thumbs up. Let's watch it.
I'm sick of people stealing my stick. If anyone around here is going to be a master debater, it's me. So let's go. Who wants to debate the master debater?
The master debater. Just a master debating. Master debating? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. He has the haircut. I love it.
Let's go. You right there.
That's the stupidest haircut I've ever seen.
I love it.
You are now. Leviticus 3:17 says it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings. So you can shut up, baby. You just hate America and you love abortions.
Not only
She's not even debating him on that.
that, but Jeremiah 1:5, I made you in the womb. South Park gets this right. In fact, I think they've been watching a lot of Charlie Kirk videos. Watch.
Oh my God, what makes
That's gotta be good. I love it. Hold on.
Oh my God, what makes you think you have the right to say what I do with my body?
Let me ask you something. If a pregnant woman is killed and the baby dies too, why is the killer charged with a double homicide?
Well, because people have different beliefs. And
It's not about belief, it's about truth. Science confirms life begins at conception. So yes, Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. But it's just morality that demands we protect the most vulnerable.
And
Oh, that is so good. I love it, man. South Park loved him. They loved him. I'm not showing you the video. That was on Instagram and Facebook. This man did not need to have his life taken from him. We're gonna miss you, Charlie. Stood up for America, stood up for God, stood up for everything that you believed in. God has said to you, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been entrusted with a few things. I'll make you master over many things. Come and enjoy not come and enjoy, but now enter into the joy of your Lord. Yeah. He's there now. We love you, Charlie. God bless you, my man. God bless America and Godspeed, my dude. Let's keep going for just a little more.
we got our own award show as part of South Park. I was told going in, Charlie, if they say your name, that's a big win. Well, apparently there's the Charlie Kirk Awards.
Master Debaters.
More and more young people today are learning to fight for America through master debation. We're here to honor
Debation. Through master debation.
the recent efforts of a brave young man who has been furiously master debating for the past several days.
Now, there's going to be a lot said about this, but we need to have a good spirit about being...
That is good. I love it. He accepts it. I would have loved it, dude. If they made fun of me, I'd be happy. I'd be happy.
being made fun of. This is all a success. This is all a win. We as conservatives, we have thick skin, not thin skin. And you can make fun of us. It doesn't matter. And until next time, I hope all of you also become master debaters for truth.
He said it! Charlie, you were amazing, my man. You were the greatest. A great man. A wonderful man in so many things, man. What else can I say? God bless you, Charlie. You are with the Lord right now. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for such an amazing man. I thank you, dear God, for Charlie. He's with you now, and Father, I love you for all that you've given me. In my personal life, there are a lot of things, God, that I do wish that wasn't here. There are a lot of things, God, that I wish that you were more clear on. And I do wish that maybe I was not even here. It was me instead of Charlie. That I myself am not here. But at least with this great man there, I'm happy to at least lived this life knowing that you made such a great man as that. I was able to enjoy him, his debates, see the love people gave him like South Park. And if they hate you, ridicule you, and do wrong against you, you know that you're doing something right. You know you are. And Charlie Kirk did such good. The scientists that we all looked up to in the early 2000s are all losers. Bill Nye, the science guy, a loser. What's his face? Neil deGrasse Tyson, a sellout. All the other scientists, nowhere to be found. Only one of them who's kind of trying to talk sense is, what's his face? Forgot his name. But, Dawkins. Richard Dawkins. He's slowly realizing that Christianity was not what he thought it was. He'd rather call himself a cultural Christian than a real one. Jordan Peterson would rather call himself a Christian than identify what that even is and what that even means. All these men have failed us. Scientists, philosophers, they failed us. Charlie Kirk was a good man. Didn't agree with him on everything, especially wording things differently. We are living in the end times. It's unfortunate but necessary to have deaths by gun violence. It's a problem in our culture. It's a failure of our culture. Switzerland, they do not have this problem. American Indian cultures, before we were disarmed, we didn't have this problem. The only people who are willing to call out Native American culture are like Muslims. So they'll be like, actually you did have this problem because you had tribe doing violence against other tribes and things like that. So yeah, you were not peaceful, they would tell us. The Christians don't have any balls, or the secularists don't have any balls to criticize American Indians, but Muslims do. The only thing I will say is, like, look, have you heard of the Scottish Korean? Just let that sit for a minute. All I'll say is that I do not hate Muslims, I do not hate anybody, I do not hate trans people, I do not hate gay people. Science has failed us. The system has failed us. The system wants to use us against each other because we, the American public, are the new Indian, as Russell Means had told us. We are the new Indian. And all of these people they bring into this country illegally, they're the new settlers. They're the new colonists, not us. Congratulations. They'll bring in, and once they have, once the new, citizen has been reduced to an Indian, AI people, I bet you anything, will be the ones with the rights. Not us. The humans will all be the new Indian. Congratulations. It is best to defend ourselves, absolutely. It is a shame that stuff happened, that our culture has failed us, that we don't look at Uvalde and how the cops did not do their job, but yet American citizens, good people with guns, stopped bad people with guns. That was awful. That we had to do it, but that's what would normally happen in American culture. And yes, there is a nuanced argument that how were criminals in the early 1900s able to become criminals? Oh, because not everybody had a gun. So I think that blows a hole in your argument, right? Yes, you're right. Cities make us feel comfortable. And that's true. But those without, good living standard resort to violence. And thus will turn to the criminal life. We will get a gun. Thus we got guns. That's how you have all this violence in Chicago. Gangs and black on black violence. Black on white violence, like the Ukrainian refugee who died. And somebody who hated Charlie Kirk because they couldn't defeat him in an argument took his life. That is unbearable, just evil. And all I can say is for these 70 minutes, that has just been awful. It is a failure of our culture, failure of our society that gun violence has gotten to this dangerous degree. Where I can see the argument for not wanting to have guns, but then it'll just become knife violence. It'll become some new weapon. We'll see more people running cars into people. Street violence like that. That'll be not okay. This was a trained marksman. That was a sniper. I know the difference between the sounds of a handgun, a rifle, like, that kind of rifle, rather than fully automatic. I know the difference. And they will treat us the same. They assassinated Sitting Bull. Like they assassinated Charlie Kirk. They character assassinated Russell Means and ignored him, calling him dangerous today. When it comes to Geronimo, they love highlighting the bad things about him rather than understanding why he did those things. Understanding the change that was forced upon him and our people. Because I come from the Apache. And yes, the bands. Yeah, I have pretty much all the bands except one. Mescalero, Hikaria, Chiricahua. Why am I always blanking on the last two? One of them I don't have, but I have four. But yeah. Through that sense, I'm not actually blood related to the man, but I am national, ethnically that is, ethnically related to the man. So, yes, our people, were done in by two different nations. United States and Mexico. Well, America and Mexico, because United States of America, United States of Mexico, you have two different United States waging war on a tiny little people. But we were a powerful people. Like Charlie. We did well. And Charlie took that fight He did real well. You will not be forgotten, Charlie. You will not be forgotten. I wish you well. Your memory and legacy will live on. You will inspire so many others, and you have inspired me. I disagree with you on wording and on some things. We are in the last days, I'm sorry. But I do care about you, Charlie. It's just... it hurts to know that you're gone. And it really does hurt to know that you are gone. I just... because I wasn't your biggest fan. I had some critiques. I didn't like you because you made me agree with Vosh, a communist. Even though politically I would be called a communist. I'm just saying that I'm not a communist. Charlie, you did not need your life to be taken from you. And Father God, he did not need his life taken from him. Father, thank you again for such an amazing man. And we thank you, Lord, for this man, Charlie Kirk. I want to bring up his picture again. This man here did not need that. He didn't need that. He was a master debater of the greatest kind. He was great. He was a great man. You would never heard me ever say that about him. I really can't believe he's gone. Not that I... because I never would have ever said that to him. It didn't feel right. He's gone. It's like, it feels like a dream. No, he'll be there tomorrow. He'll be there tomorrow. I'll hear about him next year. And all the debates he'll do next year. No. Wake up. This man is not there anymore. And I can't believe it. My ramblings here are just off the top. The tip of my tongue. I just could not see how such a man like that could have his life taken from him. You know, he was a master debater, a true warrior. Sitting Bull was a warrior that was a literal warrior, not much of an argumentative person who would, a debative person. Russell Means was. His memory was soiled and just forgotten. This man here, he will not be forgotten. At least I hope not. Nobody knows who Russell Means is. Call him dangerous. Dangerous to the to the Native American identity. This man's not Native American. Well, Russell Means would actually disagree. Russell Means would say that all people born in this hemisphere are Native Americans. That's why he prefers American Indian. Let me get that for you. Yeah.
the legendary Oglala Sioux actor, writer, and activist. The United States is one big reservation, and we are all in it.
Okay, there's that, but let me get to... Okay, yeah. All I can say is that outright, you can't defeat this man, so you're gonna take his life. Okay. Let's get that up for you. This is Russell Means, a master debater of his own kind, in terms of not ethnically, I mean just of the topics he talked about. And he cared about this nation, very much so. This is what he has to say. And I sure hope nobody does, you know, strike my channel for this or Charlie.
In the Western Hemisphere.
Yes, the Native American has the lowest life expectancy in the Western Hemisphere. That is true. I can't play much more than that. Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, South Dakota. Come on now. He's probably talking right now, so... No, he's not. Okay, so... But yeah, my thing, like 30 seconds? Really? I want 10 seconds! So I can skip.
Say about myself is that I've been to prison, I've been a thief, I've been a doper.
So Russell Means is just talking about the things that he's been, that he had gone through. The AIM, American Indian Movement, they did on Pine Ridge, where he's standing currently, is where they did the a violent action, yes. They took hostages, yes. But people just don't understand that there's in American Indian culture, we understand force because men are mostly the fighters, women are the, debaters, if you will say, master debaters, the elders, the wisdom people, the one that you go to for assistance in terms of like, I need assistance in terms of some information. Like these are people that you look up to. It's matriarchal. Matriarchs don't necessarily care too much about what the boys do because they understand boys will be boys. Patriarchs also understand boys will be boys. But the society that's building today is not matriarchal nor is it patriarchal. It's very evil. You don't know what a matriarchal society is. In a matriarchal society, boys will be boys. So, we will take hostages and do violence, and as long as, because boys will be boys, will just get it over with. Know what I mean? Alright, so.
A dope dealer?
Right. The hostage situation, they were trying to get the chief leader of that part of the Sioux Nation to step down. And they took hostages that were National Guard that showed up. It was a standoff. 71-day standoff. And he stood up to them. Him and his group of people. A band, if you will, but not necessarily a nation band. Just right, I didn't explain that. A nation band like, the Chiricahua, right? Chiricahua are a group of Apache within the nation of Apache. the tribe, if you will. But a group of people, like 50 people, right? Something like that. They stood up to the government, and they did that 71-day standoff. The person ended up stepping down to end the violence. They, including Russell Means, went to prison. Did their time. And that's why he said, I've been a prisoner. I've been a dope dealer, because in prison, he was a dope dealer. And I've been a thief. He's acknowledging that what he did was, yes, there was a wrong connotation to it. Russell Means, this man here, is acknowledging that. What he did is a bit wrong. But they did what was necessary for their people and their nation. Charlie Kirk reminds me a bit of this man here. Said some things that are a bit wrong, but did what was necessary for his nation, his people. And he's not doing it for ethnic white people. He's doing it for everybody. Everyone that lives in his nation. Just like this man had.
I've also gone to college. I'm an accountant and a computer programmer, as well as getting my doctorate in philosophy.
One of the good philosophers here. And a 1.5 hour master debater. Really good. Check out Russell Means' Welcome to the Reservation on YouTube. It is really good.
I've been everywhere in the strata of white society. I've even hung around with multimillionaires.
Okay. This man here would tour around talking to wealthy, powerful people, kind of like Charlie Kirk would do. And then he'd go to different parts in Hollywood. That's where he also talked to multimillionaires as well. And he talked to them about representation of Native Americans. I like to prefer Native American. And he'd talk about not just issues, but also just society, where American culture has failed. You restrict the Second Amendment. For whose safety? While everybody else is shooting each other who don't want to follow the rule of law, you set in position. And why is that? Because it's natural. It's natural. We're part of nature. Just look at the little friends. Look at the plants. Something you can see in nature. Just look and see. Friendly plants have all these other plants around them. They have all these little helper plants. And helper bees and other animals living amongst them. And look at the weeds. They're isolated. And when they are around other things, other plants, they suck them dry. To where they are no more. And just the weed remains. You can just observe that in nature. Look at that. That's something you can observe through nature alone. Take a look at our politicians in cities. These people who say they represent good things, they're nothing more than just the weeds. Look at what's surrounding them. They feel safe walking around with people with guns protecting them. Isolated with no friends. Except other toxic people themselves. But then yet you look at people, everyday Americans, they have friends all around them, struggling together. And yet these rich elite politicians, like Bernie Sanders and plenty of others, if you want to include Trump. Go ahead. He has people surrounding him too. People say, like Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk didn't have that many people. Proof is in his death. Look, he had so many friends. He had so many helpers around him. And look at the man who shot him. Look at all these isolated people who are cheering on his death or indifferent. Why are you indifferent to his death rather than saying how awful that is? You're an evil person. I don't care who you are. I think KSI had something to say, but the other guy with the braids, forgot his name. He's indifferent. It's like, oh, I will never watch you again, buddy. The dreads, I mean. And then you just see all of these things, and I'm just like, wow. These are not good people.
When there were no billionaires, I am an Indian, American Indian. I prefer American Indian to anyone born in the Western Hemisphere is a Native American. I'm an Oglala Lakota from the Pine Ridge Sioux Indian Reservation, which is still designated in the Defense Department as prisoner of war camp number 44.
So, that is Russell Means, author, activist, philosopher, russellmeans.com. This man here was a very great man and a true master debater. They tried to silence his memory, call him dangerous, tried to erase him. They will not do that to Charlie. And we will do our best to bring this man's memory back. This man does not need to be forgotten. Charlie will not be forgotten either. In the great words of Russell Means, as you had just heard yourself, anyone born in the Western Hemisphere is a Native American. And one of the greatest Native Americans is Charlie Kirk. I may not speak the old tongue, the old Indian tongue, but I would send you off, my man. If I could speak it, I would. I'm trying to learn it. Yes, I am. You see all these people, they hate him. And you have other people calling him out, calling those people out. I will never watch those other people again. I hated him. You could have said it's awful. And I'm sorry for him. I'm sorry about this man dying. He did not need to be killed. So, this fine gentleman here, wish your family the best. He did look kind of funny. This part of his head was big. His chin was kind of tiny. Face is kind of in the center. He was awesome. Philip DeFranco, I think, has said the worst on this man. I think he's been indifferent, Philip DeFranco. I hope not, because there's a special place for people like that. Any of those people who cheered on this man's death, there's a special place for you. But all I can say is, I hope all of you, including Philip DeFranco, that you all come to know my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I wish this man here came to know my Lord and Savior, but he has passed, and he did not. He did not. Charlie, we will miss you. You're a man who fought for so many different things that were beneficial for our nation, our culture, and our people, and most of all, the kingdom of God. You knew the Bible very well. You knew it so much so that you can recite quotes verses. I cannot. I know the Bible very well of what it's saying. I cannot quote it. I wish I could do what you did in that sense. For everyone here watching, I will be ending this and sending this man off. And all my thoughts on him. Oh, Father, I thank you so much for this dear man. Thank you so much for him, dear God. We thank you so much for this man. He was funny. He also did. Yes, he kind of looked funny. I hated seeing him pass. He died instantly. People say, no, he was stable. It's like, yeah, his body was. His spirit left him. He didn't die in agony. He was gone instantly. Love you, man. God bless you, my brother, in Jesus Christ. God bless you, Charlie Kirk. You will be missed. Everyone, I love you all. May you all be master debaters like Charlie Kirk before. I pray that you will all come to know my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. God bless you. God bless you, Charlie. God bless America. And Godspeed. Especially to you, Charlie. Godspeed.